Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Xi Jinping says China's one country, two systems model of ruling Hong Kong has worked in protecting the city and must continue long term.
25年的时间.
The Chinese leader mounted a stern defense of the political system in a speech in Hong Kong following recent international criticism. Hong Kong is marking 25 years since Britain returned the city to China. It is under tight security as it hosts Mr. Xi, who is on his first trip outside of the mainland in 2 years. Under one country, two systems, Hong Kong is supposed to be governed in a way that gives it a high degree of autonomy and protects freedom of speech and assembly and other rights not found in mainland China. But in recent years, China has been criticized for increasing its control of Hong Kong and enacting laws and reforms that stifle free speech and dissent. At least 19 people, including one child, have died in overnight Russian missile strikes on Ukraine's southern Odesa region. That's according to Ukraine officials. The State Emergency Service, DSNS, says nearly all the victims were in a 9-story building hit by one missile in the village of Surivka. At least 2 people, including the child, were killed in a separate strike on a holiday resort in the village. Russia has fired dozens of missiles on Ukrainian cities in the past few days. American basketball star Brittany Griner has gone on trial in Russia on charges of illegal cannabis possession. Ms. Griner, a 3-time WNBA League champion and 7-time All-Star, was seen arriving handcuffed at a court in the town of Khimki, just outside Moscow. If convicted, the 31-year-old faces up to 10 years in prison. The US says she is being wrongfully held and should be freed. Russia denies that her detention is motivated by the US-Russia tensions over the Ukraine war. Ruja Ignatova, also known as the missing crypto queen, has been placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. The Bulgarian woman, believed to be in her 40s, is wanted for her alleged role in running a cryptocurrency scam known as OneCoin. Federal investigators accuse the fugitive of using the scheme to defraud victims out of more than $4 billion. She's been missing since 2017, when US officials signed an arrest warrant and investigators began closing in on her. Sudanese security forces have fired tear gas at hundreds of protesters who rallied for a second day in a row in the capital against last year's military coup. Demonstrators massed again near the presidential palace in Khartoum a day after at least 9 people were killed during mass rallies against the military takeover led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan last October. The death toll from protest-related violence has reached 113 since the coup. Sudan's police accused protesters of wounding 96 police and 129 military officers, as well as damaging vehicles and setting fires. Extraordinary footage of a landslide in Peru has emerged, which damaged at least 150 homes. Footage shows how a landslide in Cruz de Xalapa Hill covered nearby houses with a cloud of earth. No deaths were reported, there were no serious injuries, but some people were affected by the dust, that's according to the Regional Health Directorate. They also say they are currently looking for people who may have gone missing after the incident. US stocks have seen their worst first half of a year since 1970, as concerns grow over how steps to curb inflation will affect economic growth. In the last 6 months, the benchmark S&P 500 index fell 20.6%, while other major US indices also dropped sharply. Stocks in the UK, mainland Europe and Asia have also suffered steep losses. It comes as central banks around the world are trying to rein in soaring living costs, with prices of essential goods like food and fuel jumping. And finally, Norwegian coast guards have rescued a whale entangled in ropes off the coast of northern Europe. The mammal was floating listlessly on the surface of the Barents Sea, its tail trapped in ropes and a buoy, when the KV Bison Coast Guard ship approached after receiving a tip from the crew of a local ferry company. The footage posted on the Coast Guard's Twitter account shows a crew member reaching down to cut the animal free. It took some 10 to 15 minutes for the Coast Guard to disentangle most of the ropes. The whale then dived and flipped its tail, splashing and spraying water before swimming away. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.